got to deal with what prison is and what jail is. Some people don't know the difference between jail and prison. Mm-hmm. You know, the difference between, like, people that even been to jail and prison don't know the difference between jail and prison type shit. Mm-hmm. So the difference between jail and prison is that jail is usually 80% of that population is awaiting trial. They are awaiting for their case to be heard, right? Just because they have a case, that do not make them guilty. That do not make the person who put them there correct. There's a whole process in which you have to go through to prove that that person did what they're accused of doing, even no matter how, right, damaging the evidence either A, may seem, or B, may not seem. 80% of that population is not guilty. That's why there was a whole big bail movement, bail reform movement, right? Khalif Browder got accused of stealing somebody's $20 backpack, landed him in jail, right? 16-year-old kid in jail for allegedly stealing somebody's $20 backpack, and lands him in jail for 3 years. He's going through all kinds of mental health stuff, right? So my thing is this, just in case anybody on here did not know, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so since it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is like a real topic in like a lot of million different type of ways, especially in the Black community, I want to, like, everything that I have to say, I want it to be focused and zoomed in on that. Because I feel like, you know, everything else that we have, whether it be materialistic, whether it be stuff that other people have that we might want to aspire to have or aspire to be, none of that don't mean nothing if you don't have your sanity. You know what I'm saying? And what does it take to have your sanity? You don't have your housing, you don't have no job, you don't have your sanity. That's not your sanity. You know what I'm saying? Not being able to subsist in a society that says if you do A, B, and C, you will be able to subsist. Not may, you will. You understand? So I want to get into all of that. My introduction is very long. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, so there's no real introduction. It's just what you see is what you get. And let's start here. Mm-hmm. I was convicted in Nassau County, in Long Island, in New York, criminally liable for another person. I was a kid by definition. I was a dependent of my mother at the time, right? And the person that I got criminally liable, convicted for, had gotten away. He had evaded hundreds of cops, canine, and helicopters. It had this huge manhunt out for him because he decided that he was going to go out into a wealthy white neighborhood, a wealthy all-white neighborhood, and jump into somebody's kitchen through their garage. So what he did was he jumped in through their garage. He got in through the window through the garage, which led him to the kitchen. Once he got into the kitchen, there was a person wallet. He took the person wallet and ran out, right? So what we talking about is one of the most coward crimes that we could be talking about. I'm going to just put that aside right there. That's number one. Like, I'm talking from a point of where I'm spending 4 years in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility, a maximum correctional facility where the minimum time that any woman is serving is 7 years. The maximum is life without parole. So when I learn what other people is in there for, I'm like, man, don't worry about what I'm in here for. That's not even relevant. I spent my whole bid that way. You know what I'm saying? Because the idea that I'm learning about what everybody else is here for and how much time they got is just kind of bizarre to me. So let me focus on my peers. That's what I focused on, right? So my thing is, there was a personal wallet stolen. For a fact, it was stolen. For a fact, I wasn't there at the scene of the crime, right? So I'm going out with a friend who's telling me he about to stop at his sister's house. He stops at his sister's house, but I'm like, yo, he stops at an area that's like maybe like a block or two away, right? And it's like, yo, I'm about to go into the house and pick something up. Come right back. So I'm waiting for him on the motorcycle. The weird area is wooded on one side. It's like this huge big house under construction on the other side. And it's pitch black. It's dark. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, it's just a weird situation. So the long story short is, by the time he come back, like 15, 20 minutes later, come back like nothing, regular. We about to go on the way to his crib. About 15 minutes later, All I know is I just remember seeing sirens, headlights, like no other indication that there was a crime that had been committed, right? So there's a high-speed motorcycle chase. All of a sudden, as soon as I see the lights, is a high-speed motorcycle chase. So we going like $120, $150 in the pitch black dark into a cul-de-sac area. So the motorcycle, as it's going 120, is at a high-speed motorcycle chase. It cannot go and maintain that speed going through a cul-de-sac. So a cul-de-sac is set up like a circle, right? So the bike, imagine a car or a bike going in a circle, right? And so the bike now wipes out. I'm the passenger of the bike. I'm not controlling this bike. The victim of the residence never saw me. She never heard a motorcycle. Everybody knows motorcycles is loud. I don't have nothing to do with this crime. I don't have nothing to do with this burglary at all. That's the facts of the case. That's 9 appeals worth of facts of case. Like, this is no cap. You understand what I'm saying? I had a weapon on me. I had unlawfully possessed a weapon. So that's what I was guilty of. And that's what I was willing to plead guilty of from day one. But what happened is he ends up evading 100 cops. He ends up evading helicopters and K9 unit. So now this is a manhunt for a nigga that we ain't even fucking get. And then, bitch, you think you about to stay here and be quiet and not tell us who the fuck he is? There's not a female cop in sight. Forget what race they are. There's not one female cop in sight. I'm being searched by a white man. I'm surrounded in the dark, not knowing half of what's going on. I'm surrounded in the dark in the wooded area that I don't even fucking know out in Long Island. Surrounded by 100 cops that's sitting there designing the scene. How they want to design the scene, but I'm so young. I see them design the scene, but I don't know what's anything until I actually go through this whole entire process, right? Because there's gonna be a trial. 98% of the United States citizens or United States, anybody that's up in here, they don't go to trial. That's the track record. That's the statistics of this country. And if that's the statistics of this country, I need you to know that right here in lovely New York, in Long Island, where the statistics are different in the city, in Long Island, is 99% people do not go to trial. Why? Because they know they're gonna lose. You telling me I'm not old enough to drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes, but I'm old enough to face 5 to 25 years, not to life, but 25 years. And then you sitting here telling me if I blow trial because I don't want to, quote unquote, give somebody up. This is the language that's written in my records that was typed up by a stenographer. Like, I'm talking from facts right now. Mm-hmm. So because where I come in right now, where I'm making myself visible, where I'm putting myself out there, that's because what happened to me is happening all across this country. And once I figured that out, I started to speak out. Because you know what? It's not enough for me to be collecting all this guap and ain't gonna drop a couple of Jews to let my niggas know what's up. Like, this is what it is. Like, this is where I come from. I try to change my life over 100%. I changed my life over. Still change my life over. What that mean? I'm not who I am? What that mean? I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say? What that mean? My experience, not my experience? What that mean? We gonna continue to pretend for this bag that we talk about? We gonna continue to pretend that this is not a continuation of slavery? We're gonna continue to dismiss the work of Malcolm X, Martin Luther, Rosa Parks. Can I keep going? Angela Davis is still alive, by the way. Long history of her work. You understand what I'm saying? So all of this spooky shit y'all doing, all of this death threats and all of this shit, I'm gonna get into all of that. Because I'm not here to be feared. You understand? And it's not like I'm not human that I don't feel fear. I'm definitely that. But one thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna I don't know what that's like. So right now I'm on this platform with no other reason but to build allies. And allies that's just as pissed off as I am. And that's ready to really snuff somebody right now. Because that's really from the angle that I come from. Yeah. And I'm gonna say a little more than that, because you know what? I spent 11 unjust years in prison, in all 5 prisons in New York State. And I spent those unjust years watching correctional criminals do some criminal shit that they don't have to be held accountable for. And it confused the fuck out of my mind. And it pissed me off. And then it started to traumatize me, right? Because now I come home and I'm thinking, okay, people want to know this. They asking for this information. They quote unquote asking for it.
Yeah.
Nah, not what I want to say. They don't want to know. She wound. See how I talk? That's how I talk. That's how I live to talk. That's how I'm gonna talk anywhere that I am, whether in the can or not in the can, whether wherever. Because that's all we have is our First Amendment rights. Like people sit out there and they post up, right, for their Second Amendment rights. Your First Amendment right is just as powerful, right? Just as powerful. Because if it wasn't, what I have to say is, I'm just chatting, right? We all just really chatting. But if there's something to what I'm saying, and in my experience, I could point to it. Ask me anything, I'll tell you about it. I can't even stay on one topic. That's how jumpy I get because there's so much to the system. It's not one piece. And then I get this energy because you know what? At the end of the day, I know I'm talking to you and us, but I know I'm mostly talking to these motherfuckers. And they not here for the right reasons.
Yeah, they trust me. They in the building. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody gets offered a bail. I mean, not everybody, but most people get offered a bail. Depending on the severity of crime, you might not get offered a bail, right? So back in the time, in the early 2000s, when I got locked up, you know, things are a lot more, quote unquote, progressive now, where a little bit has changed. But back then, like even coming up on funds, like the Black community to come up on funds was difficult, you know. So to come up on $30,000 in cash was difficult for my mom, who had mad other mouths to feed, you know. So it's basically like, it's either you're gonna bail out or I'm gonna pay for your attorney. The mouths to feed, you know. So it's basically like, it's either you're gonna bail out or I'm gonna pay for your attorney. Those is my options. And I'm like, if I end up blowing trial, this time that I do is gonna count. So I'd rather you pay for my attorney, because the legal aid is telling me to cop out of 5 years. They don't have no evidence on me. You understand what I'm saying? I'm possessing a weapon. That's what I have. That's what I'm willing to cop out to. That's what I'm willing to do time for. That's what I know I am guilty of. That is what it is, no matter how I came into contact with that weapon. You understand what I'm saying? But the fact of the matter is that this became a different kind of situation. It's not that I wanted to go to trial. It's that you're not going to put me on, you're not going to put on me something that don't belong to me just because you want me to help you do your motherfucking job. Like, that's not my job. I don't care what nobody say, but this is how it go when you don't this and this and that. No. That is not my job. I have my rights, right? My right is to exercise my right to trial. My Sixth Amendment right is to have the right to a counsel, a competent one. So that's what I'm going to try to exercise. And since the legal aid that I'm not paying for is telling me to cop out, then yeah, I'm going to take my mom's offer and say, yes, I want an attorney instead of bailing out. Those are my options. For some people, they have it, their family have it, maybe they have property, a vehicle or a house they could put up on it. None of those was my situations. I came straight from poverty, so that's what my circumstance was. Nevertheless, though, I understood my circumstance in the sense that I had a little bit of college education. I was already getting back on the right track. And because I'm in jail, don't mean I'm going to stop that. So, you know, education became my ultimate goal, you know, and I just continued on to that trajectory. I continued on to that goal. Nobody's going to make me be a criminal just because they had me handcuffed and shackled. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if they offer in school, I'm going to take school because that's who I am. And that's just what it is. And so I say that to say, because it's like, everybody talks about the wild Black community, the Black on, this quote unquote fake, fictitious Black on Black crime, right? And I'm quoting that because there's Asian on Asian crime, white on white crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime, but they only call it Black on Black crime. Crime is going to happen when you're in close proximity to anybody. Right? And that's not just coming from some shit I heard on YouTube or read. It's literally come like facts. Nah, like on some G shit. I want everybody to know this. The perspective that I come from and why I have sometimes so much anger, so much rage, and I might hop to different topics is because I'm coming from the perspective of somebody who was a former gang member, right? One. Then I got kicked out of school when I was trying to change my life around. Then I got the nerve to get kicked out of school and then to get into college without a GED. So that's where I was at prior to getting arrested, even though I still hung out with whoever I was affiliated with. It is what it is, right? And that's how you get guilty by association. So that's what lands me in prison, guilty by association. doesn't change where I was trying to go with my life. And so the idea that I could sit here and change my whole life around in prison, I'm gonna fast forward just a tiny bit. I'm gonna change my whole life around in prison in terms of going in there without a GD, get a GD, get an associate's degree in liberal arts from one of the top 5 prestigious college in New York, if not in the US, but then have the nerve to come home with 5 years on parole after spending 11 illegal, unjust years that has its own circumstances, situations each day by day, month by month, year by year, and decade down to the last days of which I had experienced, but nevertheless, I came home homeless. Still the happiest you could be. In traffic on the train, what? Y'all stressed? This is love. Like, that's how it was, because there's no better place to be but outside of a cage. You're a human. You don't belong there. You understand what I'm saying? So your body is naturally like, whoa. The problem was that I'm still a criminal in the eyes of all of these people, right? I didn't just do my time to come home now and just be a citizen, have my full rights restored, or even at least at bare minimum, just serve my time and not have to go and be on 5 years of invisible chains that creates an invisible disability. Because the worst thing that somebody could be is in a position like Grandmaster Jay right now, which is to be on invisible chains. You can see him time to time, you can hear him, but you don't see the psychology behind what's being done, and you can't even explain that. You just have to endure and try to vent as much as you can and hope that people understand where the anger is coming from, But I don't know, shoot at me wherever. I feel like I'm more of an advocate, right, than an activist. And the difference between an advocate and an activist is that an advocate more so speaks out for people, and an activist is more like active and putting themselves out there. And so because of the trauma that I already was experienced from my own experience, I wasn't really like trying to be out there. And then I'm trying to survive 5 years on parole, right? After I had done so much times, I just want to not have this lingering over my head. So I didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that, even though my hand ended up being forced, and I understand, it is what it is. But what I will say, like I will say, my whole testimony, I was so enraged by my own situation, but I felt like I had already exhausted all my remedies. So it was already behind me by the time I had came home. So it was this last previous job that I had held where I was working as a program associate on a criminal justice initiatives fund, where we gave grants to, local organizers or organizations or groups who was doing bail or police reform. And so when I started to learn from all of those people across the country what was going on in their local city or their state or their town, it just started to trigger my own experience, and to know that that my experience and what I fought for all of those years, no matter how much times I tried to let it go and move forward, something always plugged at me because there was something to it that wasn't always right. And now I found out what wasn't right. Like, this was deliberate what happened to you. You ain't gonna come up in here and think you're gonna be one of 1% to do what you did and succeed. Nah, what kind of message you think that's gonna send to everybody else? And literally, that was their words. One common theme is that people are overcharged and people are over-sentenced, And then different people go through different things in prison. Like I heard, like somebody reached out to me that I know personally that had done 14 years. And when she heard my testimony, it's as if she did 0 days. Because she was a good person in prison, right? What it means to be a good person in prison is you ain't gonna write no grievance. You're gonna shut up. Somebody do something to you, you're gonna shut up. If you want your time to go smooth, you will shut up. And if you don't shut up, your time is not gonna be smooth. And when you sitting there with 10 and 15 years, you want your time to be smooth because that's your life right now. So it's not even like nobody's more, this than nobody else. It's that people got to make certain decisions. People have children, people have husbands they need to see and have sex with. You having problems, you ain't getting that. So you not willing to have sex with a CO. You want to have sex with your husband. You're gonna behave. You understand? So it's like different people is gonna have different experiences. Okay. Depends on everything that they do in it. If I fight a correctional officer because they disrespected me first, and then I responded to them, I'm always going to be in the wrong because I'm a criminal. I'm a felon. I'm everything that you said that I was. I'm this number that you wrote on my shirt that I have to wear everywhere that I go. You know what I'm saying? You get a rule book when you go to prison. And there's some rules that you got to follow. Some are vague, some are straightforward. And then others, you're just going to learn from everybody else. They're going to tell you a million stories. You got nothing but time to listen to what this place is about, that place is about, who this person is, that person is. Like, it's a whole completely different world. If you've never been there, some of this stuff might be a little bit difficult to comprehend. And so ask me, you know what I'm saying? But everybody does time a different way. I'm speaking for me and a lot of other people, but there's like a lot of people who are already speaking out for themselves and a lot of people that really want to speak out for themselves. They just not there yet. And so that was the whole point of what I was trying to do, is to develop a platform with people who wanted to speak out, because at the end of the day, this is therapy right now. My forms of therapy, if we have time to talk about that, I can't experience that like the average person because of where I come from and because of how, like, I'm literally a commodity. Forget just being black. Being formerly incarcerated is more of a commodity than being black. Being black and formerly incarcerated, Scrooge McDuck is swimming right now. Like, that's bread right now. You understand? That's the whole entire bag for the next decade right now.